Hi, I'm Mike Kaliher with Spec Rescue International. Today on the Spec Show, I'm going to go over proper PPE for confined space rescue. All right, when we talk about PPE in the fire service, we typically talk about our turnout gear. We also have USAR gear, is what I'm wearing today, but in the confined space rescue, typically we don't want to use, obviously, our turnout gear because it gets bulky. Same with the USAR gear, it tends to get bulky. Can we use it? Sure. But is it the best option? I don't think so. So what we're going to go over today is what the rescuer has on today is a Nomex Jumpsuit. It works great for confined space rescue. It makes the rescuer slim and being able to get into tight spaces very easily. The next thing that the rescuer would want to have on is a Class 3 harness. Why a Class 3? Because we might have to lift them up vertically. And where are we going to do that from a Class 2? There's probably nowhere we can get that. So we want to make sure we have a Class 3 harness on. This harness in particular is very low profile. That's another option that you want to go to. A fall arrest harness works very well for confined space rescue. If you start getting into these big, bulky Class 3 harnesses, they tend to get hung up on a lot of stuff. They're not the best choice, so what we found here is we have a low profile Class 3 harness. The next thing we have is we want to make sure, if we look down, steel-toed boots, okay? We want to make sure that something that doesn't drop or fall on them. We're also going to be inside there. We don't want to be muddling around with tennis shoes or lightweight boots. We want some heavy-duty boots. As you can see here, he has some Nomex gloves on. Firefighting gloves, probably not the best choice. Again, they're bulky. They're not as easy to handle. Think about when we get in there and we're doing a rescue, we need to put the patient in some patient packaging device. We're going to be tying some knots maybe. Maybe we're tightening the Spec pack down or some sort of sked device that we need to get the patient out. We need some gloves that we have some dexterity in. So these Nomex extrication gloves work great. One thing you want to watch out for though is voids in here. Maybe you have some flash protection. One thing about confined space is it's hard to get that proper flash protection that you do with your firefighting gear. All right, so you got to watch out for that. Maybe something exposed. We want to make sure that we tuck it in. Just like with hazmat, we want to dress the rescuer out. We want to be able to go in there and say, hey, look, he's got a little leak here. We want to make sure that his skin is not exposed. Because we get into the confined space, something flashes over, we don't want him to get burned up. We can see that he's getting kind of bulky now, but we have to have our emergency escape Sabo system on him. This gives you 10 minutes of escape time in case your air system fails, okay? So we have this on. You can see it's a belt system, comes around with a shoulder strap, and we have an escape bottle. Easy access to this, right? He wants to be able to turn this bottle on when he needs it. We don't want it hiding behind his back, again, getting that rescuer dressed. We don't want to have it hiding behind his back where he can't get to it. Another important thing is communications. Obviously, a portable radio in a confined space atmosphere, something flammable, we don't want to have that kind of type of communication. So what we have here is a confined space communications device. It has a throat mic right here that goes across his throat, and he can talk talk to you. Also has an earpiece right here so you can hear the communications guy outside. I've run the wires down through his Nomex hood because when he puts the hood on, it's going to cover all this stuff. All right, you don't want it on the outside. It doesn't work very well. One thing again, like I said, layers for that flash protection. We want to make sure when the wires come down that I tuck this in and then no skin is exposed. Move into the mask. He now has a mask on for his breathing system. We've put the Nomex hood up around his mask and we have it secured to make sure that there's no skin visible. Also important, obviously, is a helmet with the chin strap properly buttoned. We don't want to have his helmet falling off while he's in the confined space. All right, so our rescue is ready to go. Not quite yet. We want to make sure that his air system works, his communications work, and everything is good to go before he enters the confined space. We're going to do this on 2 people to make the initial rescue. But don't forget, we're going to have to do this on 2 other guys they're going to be the rescuers for them if something happens. We call them the backup team. So before we can check everything, we want to make sure that his communications are hooked up. We have an umbilical here with a carabiner. It's run through some webbing. We have everything in one umbilical. We have a little tag line. We have our air system, our air line going through here, and also our confined space communications are through there. So we'll hook those up. Do we have to hook them here? No, but I found that it's easier for him to manage this if it's right here. If he gets tangled up, he can disconnect that and move it around wherever he needs. If I hook it in his back, it's a little bit harder to get to. Is it wrong? No. What we can do is we can put like maybe a little Prusik cheater cord on there, and he can pull the system around and get to it very easily. The last thing we want to do is we want to hook his air system up. All right. We'll plug this in. One thing we don't want to do is we'll see a lot of are people coming in here and duct taping these together. And what we're finding is when people are going through stuff, they'll end up hitting, and the duct tape will not keep this from opening. But what happens, it's hard to get it back together with the duct tape in there. So we don't want to duct tape that. If something happens to his airline that he needs to adjust it, he has this escape bottle and he can put it back in a lot easier this way. All right, so we don't want to tape this shut. With confined space, it's going to require a lot of rescuers or a lot of people to make this rescue. Okay, so you need to think about that when you're doing it. Right here we have an air system, so you're going to need one person dedicated to that air system. They cannot go anywhere. All right, this is very important, as with anything else. He has air bottle here, one air bottle. The two rescuers will be going off of. He has an emergency one next to it. When this one runs out, he can go to the next one. You want to have plenty of air bottles over here for the air person to be able to switch these out. The other important person is the communications guy. He'll be over here operating the communication system, the con space. He is the person that's going to radio or talk through the con space system from the rescuers to the outside people. Okay, so he's a very important job. You want to have somebody dedicated to this, somewhere where maybe it's quiet that he can hear what's going on. All right. Here's our umbilical. It's very important that you stretch these out. There's different ways to coil these, but what we found out, it doesn't matter how you coil them. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It's very important before you make the rescue that you stretch them out. As you can see, we've stretched this one out, but it could become kinked up. Okay, you want to stretch them out to where they're nice and easy to be able to feed into the confined space. Okay, just imagine you're going to have 4 of these lines, 2 of them going in. If they get tangled up on the outside, they're going to get tangled up on the inside. So what we can do to prevent that is make sure these lines are flaked out nice and neat. For more information on confined space rescue, you can contact Spec Rescue International. For the Spec Show, I'm Mike Kaliher.